Hi, welcome to Listen to Riches. Today, I will be decoding a book for you titled Brain Rules, with the subtitle 12 Principles for Surviving and Thriving at Work, Home and School. We will delve into why pictures are more easily remembered than words, why it's crucial to familiarize yourself with the exam environment before a test, and how providing examples deepens understanding and enhances memory. These seemingly common phenomena are, in fact, intertwined with the workings of the brain. By comprehending the rules governing the brain's operations, we can harness its power more effectively, ultimately making our learning and work more effortless. The author of this book is John Medina, the director of the Brain Applied Research Center at the University of the Pacific and a visiting professor at the University of Washington, specializing in the study of the human brain. Moreover, he is a best-selling popular science writer, with notable works including Brain Rules and Brain Rules for Baby. Within this book, Medina presents the 12 laws governing how the brain functions, which can help individuals better utilize their brains in learning and daily life. Upon its release, this book immediately gained popularity as a must-read in neuroscience, even topping the charts of Amazon's best-selling books in neuropsychology. Next, we will dissect this book into 3 sections. Firstly, we will discuss the changes the brain undergoes during learning. Secondly, we will delve into strategies for enhancing learning efficiency. Lastly, we will explore the impact of lifestyle on the brain. These insights will aid you in comprehending and harnessing the full potential of your brain. First, let's delve into the content of the first section, the changes that occur in the brain during the learning process. Scientists have discovered that when people learn new things, the neural structure of the brain undergoes synchronous changes. These changes involve 2 aspects. First, the brain allocates a small group of nerve cells, known as neurons, specifically for memorizing new pieces of information. Each piece of knowledge may involve thousands to tens of thousands of different neurons. These neurons only respond to stimuli related to a specific piece of knowledge and remain unaffected by unrelated stimuli. Scientists once conducted an intriguing experiment. During surgery on a man with epilepsy, they showed him a photo of Jennifer Aniston. Aniston is an actress best known for her role in the TV show Friends, and has been acclaimed as one of the world's most attractive women. Interestingly, when the man saw this photo, one neuron in his brain quickly became excited. Scientists then displayed 7 more photos of Aniston to the man, and that neuron became excited 7 times in response. However, when they switched to showing over 80 photos of other celebrities or non-celebrities, that neuron never fired again. This indicates that the man's brain harbored a neuron specifically associated with Jennifer Aniston. It also implies that he had previously encountered information related to Aniston, perhaps seeing her in photos, on TV, or in real life, and possibly knowing some things about her. His brain had reserved this neuron exclusively for Aniston. Similar to this man, when we learn new things, our brains also allocate specific neurons for the content we are learning. Over time, our brains accumulate a set of neurons unique to us, reflecting our learning and life experiences from childhood to adulthood. In this book, the author mentions an interesting episode involving basketball legend Michael Jordan. In the 1990s, Jordan abruptly announced his retirement from basketball and transitioned to baseball. However, his performance on the baseball field was abysmal, to say the least. Without a doubt, Jordan's reaction time and muscle strength were top-notch in basketball, so why couldn't he excel on the baseball field? The answer lies in the fact that his many years in basketball had already created a complete set of neurons in his brain dedicated exclusively to basketball. On the basketball court, he was in his element, but on the baseball field, it was an entirely different story. The second change the brain undergoes during the learning process is that neurons responsible for remembering new knowledge become linked to neurons responsible for recalling old knowledge. For instance, when you first learn about the double helix structure of DNA, you might associate it with the shape of a twisted rope. Or, when learning about the concept of weightlessness in physics class, You may recall your experience of riding a pirate ship at an amusement park. This manner of information processing in the brain makes new knowledge meaningful and easier to remember. Throughout the learning process, whether it's forming specialized neurons or establishing connections with other knowledge, it relies on changing neural connections. Neural connections act as bridges for transmitting neural signals between neurons. During learning, these neural connections influence the information we receive. Some become stronger, some weaken, and some may even break entirely. Simultaneously, new neural connections are established, aiding in our comprehension and memory of new knowledge. By understanding these changes that occur in the brain during the learning process, we can gain a better grasp of how learning impacts the brain's structure and function. This not only helps us learn and remember knowledge more effectively, but also provides deeper insights into the complex mechanisms the brain employs when dealing with new information. So, how can we leverage these changes to enhance our learning efficiency? This is precisely what the second section aims to discuss. There are 2 key points to improving learning efficiency. The first point is to engage in what is known as elaborate encoding when first learning something new. When you initially encounter information, your brain perceives and processes it in a process called encoding. Encoding involves changes in the connections between countless neurons in different parts of the brain. Scientists have found that the more elaborate the encoding, the more neurons you activate, which creates more new neural connections, making the information easier to recall and improving the effectiveness of learning. But how do you achieve elaborate encoding? One method is through multisensory learning, where you engage as many senses as possible, including sight, hearing, smell, and touch, while learning. Research shows that if information is conveyed solely orally, people can remember only about 10% of it after 3 days. However, if you incorporate a picture into the oral explanation, people can remember about 65%. Compared to single-sensory learning, multisensory learning is more effective because it engages more brain regions during the process, prompting more connections between neurons. For instance, when you see a dog, visual information enters your visual cortex, and if you simultaneously hear the dog barking, auditory information enters your auditory cortex. To form a comprehensive understanding, more neurons need to communicate and connect, which enhances memory. Among all the senses, vision takes up nearly half of the brain's resources, making it particularly important for learning. Our human ancestors lived on open grasslands for an extended period, relying heavily on visual cues to identify threats, find food, and discover reproductive opportunities. Therefore, the more visualized the learning content is, the deeper the impression it leaves in the brain, and the easier it is to recall. Visual information includes images, videos, and text. Among these, the brain prefers and remembers images the best, while its memory for text is relatively weaker. This is because the brain sees text as a series of small pictures. When reading, the brain needs to recognize the features of each letter, which is more complex compared to image recognition. Hence, if you want to enhance memory or convey information effectively, a single outstanding image can be worth 1,000 words. Combining multimedia elements such as images, text, and sound can significantly improve the efficiency of learning. The second method for elaborate encoding involves creating context dependencies, which means maintaining the same environment when learning and recalling. Because the environment can become associated with the content learned, it generates more relevant neural connections, making the environment one of the cues for memory retrieval. Being in the same environment increases the likelihood of recalling knowledge. This environment can be a location, a scent, or an emotion. It's important to note that the environment itself is not the object of memory, but it can assist in the process of recall. First, let's discuss the location factor within the environment. An experiment was conducted in which 2 groups of participants were asked to learn words. One group learned on land, and the other group learned underwater. The results showed that the group that learned on land performed significantly better in recalling on land than underwater, and vice versa for the underwater group. This clearly indicates that matching the environment for both learning and recall greatly improves memory retrieval. This also explains why it's beneficial to become familiar with the examination room before a test, because when you are familiar with the test environment, the learning and recall environments align, enhancing memory recall. Next, let's explore the role of sense in the environment. You may have had experiences where catching a whiff of the aroma of a dish, such as braised pork, brings back memories of your mother's bustling kitchen during your childhood. Or smelling a familiar perfume might evoke memories of a past relationship. Simply encountering a scent you've experienced before can trigger recollections from that time. This is known as the famous Proust effect in the field of neuroscience, named after the French writer Marcel Proust. In his work, In Search of Lost Time, he describes a classic scene where the protagonist vividly recalls the appearance of his childhood home, a path, and a small town by soaking a Madeleine cake in tea, which releases a familiar scent. By consciously exposing yourself to the same scents during learning and recall, you can enhance memory recall. Furthermore, we can also utilize emotions to create context dependencies. Some experiments suggest that maintaining the same emotional state during learning and recall is helpful for memory. For example, if you learn something while in a very happy mood, then during recall, maintaining a pleasant emotional state can aid in better remembering that knowledge. These methods all help us effectively leverage the brain's mechanisms for learning and memory, ultimately enhancing learning efficiency. The third method of elaborate encoding is deepening understanding through the use of examples. When you're learning something, ensure that you comprehend its meaning rather than just rote memorization. Understanding involves connecting new information to existing knowledge, which creates additional neural connections, making it easier to recall the old knowledge. Essentially, relating new information to previous knowledge enhances memory recall. One simple way to deepen understanding is through the use of examples. In one experiment, researchers had a group of students read an article consisting of 32 paragraphs. Some paragraphs contained no examples, some had one example, and others included multiple examples, all related to the topic. The results revealed that paragraphs with more examples were the easiest for students to remember. The key takeaway here is to use examples you're familiar with whenever possible, because personalized examples tend to be more effective. For instance, using examples from your own experiences enhances memory recall more effectively than using examples from someone else's life. Next, let's continue discussing the second key point in improving learning efficiency, which is spaced learning and spaced repetition. Spaced learning means not trying to learn everything at once but breaking it into several parts and studying them at different times. For example, when you have to read a book, don't rush to finish it all in one go. Instead, divide it into several reading sessions separated by a few days. This approach enhances memory retention of the book's content. In one study, 2 groups of students were asked to memorize vocabulary words. The first group was required to memorize all the words at once, spending the entire day repeatedly reciting them. The second group had 2 weeks and learned the words in batches, reviewing them every few days. The results showed that the second group outperformed the first. This is because memory is fragile in the period following the initial learning of new information. The newly formed neural connections are not yet stable and are susceptible to interference from other information, leading to memory confusion. Therefore, to prevent memory confusion and improve retention, spaced learning and spaced repetition are crucial. Lastly, the author mentions the instability of neural connections in the brain during both learning and review. Even during the review of previously learned content, neural connections can become unstable and easily influenced by new information, potentially leading to memory confusion. Therefore, spaced learning and spaced repetition are essential for maintaining memory accuracy. In summary, there are 2 key points to improve learning efficiency. The first is to engage in elaborate encoding during learning, which can be achieved through multisensory input, providing examples, and creating context dependencies. The second is spaced learning and spaced repetition to avoid memory confusion and enhance memory persistence. Understanding how the brain works and its preferences can help us learn and apply knowledge more effectively. Next, we'll delve into the third section, discussing how lifestyle impacts the brain. We'll explore three aspects in detail: sleep, exercise, and stress. Firstly, let's talk about the importance of sleep for the brain. Scientists have discovered that sleep deprivation directly affects cognitive functions in the brain. In one experiment, a group of students was made to sleep less than 7 hours each workday for a period, with an additional 40-minute reduction over the weekend. The academic performance of these students significantly declined. Furthermore, studies on soldiers found that one night of sleep deprivation led to a 30% drop in overall cognitive function, and 2 consecutive nights of sleeplessness resulted in a 60% decrease in cognitive abilities. Sleep is crucial for cognitive function because it allows the brain to rest, and a well-rested brain functions better. Moreover, while we sleep, the brain doesn't rest. Instead, it replays experiences from the day, aiding in the consolidation of learning. In fact, only about 20% of the total sleep time is dedicated to true rest, known as the non-rapid eye movement, NREM, stage, which is the deepest sleep phase. During the remaining 80% of sleep, the brain is even more active than when we are fully awake, continually altering the connections between neurons, automatically helping us review and consolidate knowledge acquired during the day. In real life, there are numerous examples of sleep facilitating learning, with the classic story of Dmitri Mendeleev inventing the periodic table in a dream being one of the most famous. Many novelists also use sleep to aid their creative process, keeping paper and a pen by their bedside and writing as soon as they wake up in the morning when inspiration often strikes. Therefore, if you encounter a challenging problem during the day that you can't seem to solve, it's often best to set it aside and get some sleep. You might find a solution when you wake up the next morning. Next, let's discuss the impact of exercise on the brain. The brain loves exercise, and the more you move, the smarter you become. Our human ancestors lived on the grasslands and needed to walk 10 to 20 kilometers every day, and the brain evolved as a result of constant movement. Research has found that individuals who enjoy physical activity demonstrate better rapid reasoning, abstract thinking, and adaptability. However, if regular exercisers stop exercising, these cognitive abilities can decline. Exercise also helps prevent some cognitive-related chronic diseases. For instance, a 20-minute daily walk can reduce the risk of developing dementia by more than half. Exercise enhances cognitive function in the brain for 2 main reasons. Firstly, exercise increases blood flow to the brain, providing it with ample glucose and oxygen. Glucose is the brain's fundamental energy source, and sufficient oxygen helps clear free radicals, maintaining optimal brain function. Secondly, exercise stimulates the brain to produce a specific protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which acts as a neuronal fertilizer, keeping neurons young and healthy and strengthening connections between them. Neurons in the hippocampus, which are associated with memory, are particularly sensitive to this protein, and a lack of it can affect the normal functioning of these neurons. However, it's important to note that even a small amount of exercise can have significant benefits for the brain. Research indicates that exercising just twice a week, regardless of the form of exercise, can have positive effects on the brain. Lastly, let's discuss the impact of stress on the brain. Stress is a common issue in modern life, and chronic stress over an extended period can seriously affect brain function and health. Short-term moderate stress can stimulate the brain to create more neural connections, enhancing learning and adaptability. However, long-term chronic stress can disrupt hormone balance in the brain, affecting memory, learning, and decision-making abilities. To maintain physical and mental health, it's essential to learn how to manage stress and employ effective relaxation techniques, such as meditation, exercise, and maintaining strong social relationships. Lifestyle has profound effects on the brain. Sleep, exercise, and stress management are all critical factors that significantly influence cognitive function and brain health. Therefore, it's important to prioritize and adjust our lifestyle to maintain optimal brain function. The author has put forth some suggestions to help us improve the impact of our lifestyle on the brain. He advises that we frequently get up from our seats and take breaks at least twice a day. If possible, having a treadmill and other exercise equipment in the workplace can allow us to engage in physical activity anytime and anywhere. Both sleep and exercise are things that the brain enjoys, and they contribute to enhanced cognitive function and overall health. However, the brain isn't too fond of stress. When people feel stressed, the body releases adrenaline, leading to increased heart rate and elevated blood pressure, triggering the fight or flight physiological response. While this response had its uses in evolution, in modern society, chronic stress can lead to health issues. Chronic stress can damage blood vessels due to adrenaline, increasing the risk of heart disease and stroke. It also has adverse effects on neurons in the hippocampus, weakening learning and memory abilities. Each person has a different threshold for stress, beyond which stress becomes harmful. The author provides 3 signs to determine if you are under harmful stress. The first sign is a physiological reaction that others can perceive, such as emotional outbursts. The second sign is whether you dislike something, and if given the choice, would you choose to avoid it? The third sign is feeling out of control, believing you cannot change the situation. When these 3 signs occur simultaneously, it indicates that you are under harmful stress, and you should take measures promptly to alleviate it. In summary, this book emphasizes the functioning principles of the brain in learning, lifestyle, and stress management. By adhering to these principles, we can enhance learning efficiency, improve our quality of life, and mitigate the negative impact of stress on the brain. The brain has its own way of working, and understanding and aligning with these principles can help unlock our potential, boost cognitive abilities, and improve our quality of life. Congratulations on completing another book. Thanks to everyone for their support and attention. Please subscribe to the channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends and acquaintances. Let's combine wisdom with practice to achieve our financial goals and create a brighter future. Thank you all. See you in the next book.